Hello and welcome to the Inspector Overview tutorial for Bloody Mess, Positional Data, and Dismemberment. In this tutorial, I'm going to go over the variables you can find in the Inspector for all of the main scripts that come with a package. First, let's start with the character setup, which if you've done our first two tutorials on the basic character setup and the advanced character setup for Dismemberment, you will have already become accustomed to a little bit, but I'm going to go in and explain all these different variables in a little bit more detail. Alright, for character name, this is what's going to be used for when the VPAD's turn-based positional system comes out, or framework comes out for Bloody Mess. And it's basically there so when you are aiming your gun at a character, it'll be able to tell the UI what character you're aiming at. So it can put like, if it was Bob, it would on the screen it would have like Bob. That's your target. It's just so we can throw a name up on the screen for what you're targeting. Kind of a cool little thing. Load saved. This is actually for when it's kind of when it's not being used right now, but it's for when we add in the ability to bring in saved data from previous scenes by using easy save or dialogue system or even just player prefs, so you can transfer a character's health data. And so that's what that's for. The script target, technically the event system requires a target to send its events to. If you put your scripts that are going to access the event system on the same game object, as in like if you put it on this game object, underneath this, they will receive the events. You don't have to put anything here. You can leave it completely blank. If you have your scripts that are trying to access the damage event system on the main camera, you would have to drag the main camera over to here and make it the script target so it could actually get the events. That's how the event system works. But for most purposes, you're going to be able to just put whatever script you want to access the event system on the actual character itself and not have to worry about anything else. Just leave that blank. Renderer's parent and skeleton parent we already discussed. When a character dies, or when a character's health equals 0, I hide the renderers and the skeleton and disable the main collider for the character. What this does is it leaves the actual game object there to continue running its scripts, and it will do that up until the destruction timer, or if you're using pooling, up until when you decide to add it back to the pool. It'll continue doing scripts. This allows you to have scripts running long after the character actually has ragdolled, so that you can do things to the ragdolls, or do things to the limbs, or just do any number of things. It just gives you that ability. If you're using pooling, obviously the destruction timer is gone because you're not going to be destroying the character. It's going to be added back into a pool. The use of pooling is still in an early beta state. I need to get a tutorial up on how to use the actual pooling for it, but it will require a little bit of scripting on your part to link the pooling system in. Automatic ragdoll. This right here just says, do you want the character setup, the Bloody Mess system, to automatically ragdoll when the health equals 0? So if you're checked, when the health equals 0, it will spawn this ragdoll. If not, it won't spawn a ragdoll until you tell it to. So let's say you want to do something. Let's say you have a boss, and you want the boss to do an animation before it ragdolls. Like maybe it's going to like go like, oh no, with its hands in the air, and then like it's gonna start doing it, whatever its death animation is, and then you ragdoll. Well, what you want to do is you still want to use this system for the ragdoll, but you'll put a script on this game object that can link to this and call the ragdoll death function inside character setup. And so you will, instead of automatically ragdolling on 0 health, you will tell the system exactly when you want to ragdoll. And then it'll all work, everything will still all work from there. If you have a ragdoll, automatic ragdoll on or off, it doesn't matter. These following things get passed on. The ragdoll wait time is just the time it takes from when a character's health equals 0 and when the ragdoll is spawned. Destroy ragdolls, this gets passed to the actual ragdoll that is spawned, and it tells it how long it's supposed to live. If you're using pooling for your ragdolls, you need to turn this off. And again, I'll be going over pooling at a later date. Alright, we have the health set up right here. We have current health. This is for debug purposes, I show this. You can't actually mess with it. The max healths for all your different limbs and the total max global health. On start, by default, if you're not using this load saved, the health will automatically go up to the max health. So it'll be, when a character spawns, it'll have its max health. If it has load saved, it'll, if you have your save script linked in, it will bring in the health from your player press, or from whatever asset you're using for your health. So if it's a player character, it'll bring in those values and not set it to its max on start. It does that on awake, sorry, not start, on awake. Alright, we move on down. We have the critical multipliers, which we've discussed before. If you set them above 1, you multiply. If you set them below 1, you divide. Or you just, from your base damage, which actually comes from whatever damage asset you're using, whether it's RFPS, UFPS, the damage they send gets sent to this system after a little bit of tweaking on your part, but it's not a big deal. I'll have videos on how to set up with all of those, and it'll be fairly painless. Alright, if you've done the advanced dismemberment course, you'll know about head dismemberment, body dismemberment. These two essentially just say, hey, I want to dismember, but you can use just head dismemberment. I mean, if that's the case, you just need to have these two things right here. Put in your head model, that's a skin mesh. Or no, sorry, that's you put in your head model that you make for your character. You put in your, whatever your skin mesh is for your head, and then you put in whatever your head collider is. And technically, you don't even need the head collider, because if you have a headshot and your head falls off, it's going to be dead, so you don't really need it, but it's probably good to have it there. And usually it's two, like we did in our example. It was the head and the neck were both considered head. But if that's all you want to do, that's fine. But if you want to use both, you turn both on. Or you could have your character never lose his head and just have his body parts be blown off. I mean, maybe you have a character that doesn't have a head or whatever. It's there that you can use one or the other or both. Use explosive opens up a new part, which we haven't talked about before. There's a special function in Bloody Mess in this character setup. Amount of behavior is that it actually can explode all the body parts off at once. And I use this in the mine demo on the web demo, minefield demo on the web demo. But what I don't explain, or haven't explained yet, is that you don't have to necessarily put what's supposed to go here. You could put anything here. You could put gibs here if you wanted to. It doesn't have to be parts. It's just, I wanted to have the ability to explode a character and have crap be flying around. I thought that would be a very fun idea. So I added in this. You don't have to use it. You can turn it off, leave it, ignore it, whatever. But that's what that does. And all the colliders, I've explained this before. You add colliders because when you remove a limb, like let's say your left hand and your character's still alive, you don't want that collider to still be there to take damage. So we're going to remove all the colliders that are part of that limb. And it's especially important with your like left upper arm because it's going to remove 3 or 4 different colliders at once. And it makes it where your character is going to function correctly. That's the colliders are very important to get right. All right, that's about it for the variables for the character setup. I'm going to move on to ragdoll logic, which you've also used, and its setup is very similar to character setup. You have your skin mesh renderers that run down here, and then you have your left eye and right eye, or right eye, left, whatever. And these are defaulted to mesh renderers for in the case that your character, the eyes aren't part of the head, or aren't skin mesh renderers. Right, that always gets me. Sometimes they just parent, when you're modeling, you'll just parent your eyes to the eye bone and you'll leave it as a mesh render, and that's all you do. These can be left blank or they can be filled in. It doesn't matter. It's up to you on however your mesh is set up. We have the same colliders that we use for character setup are also in the ragdoll setup. The extra part down here is for the blood. Now, by default, there's nothing on the characters for the blood. What you do, and I'll have a tutorial for this as well, is you go into each of your limbs and you set a transform or a empty game object where you'd want to spawn the blood. And they would go for each of the different body parts so that the ragdoll knows where to spawn blood if a body part is missing. Now, how you handle actually spawning the blood is kind of up to you. You can just attach blood to each body part, each of the game objects you use in this, and just have them just deactivated until, and then have a script turn them on one at a time whenever a ragdoll is spawned. Or you could use a script that spawns it and use pooling for your effects and spawns it at that position and keeps it there. So it's kind of up to you on how you want to do the blood. Again, in the final release of Bloody Mess, there will be a complete example on how this works. And I'll have a tutorial up by then to explain that too. Let me go back up here to use pooling, use upper body, use solo, and leg off is a debug thing because I was trying to fix a problem that I was having. So this will probably be gone when you see this this video. But for use pooling, this just says, hey, we're using pooling, so don't destroy things. Also, it will when you're using pooling, you need to reactivate everything that you've deactivated. So when a ragdoll is spawned, it's going to deactivate body parts that were missing from the original mess. Well, when you put that back into the pool, you want to make it all full again and then have it read the next time. That's what pooling does. And on enable, it's going to reactivate everything and then deactivate only when it needs to deactivate, if that makes sense. Is upper body. This is just for when the one upper body object that you have for your character, the actual body part that gets spawned, is upper body just tells the system that it is, and then it works a different way. Is solo mesh just means that the mesh only has one skin mesh attached to it, and it doesn't need to run through the whole system of turning things on and off, because it's only ever gonna be one thing. It's for performance. If it click this, if your body part only has one mesh attached to it. All right, moving down, we have the limb script. This script goes on every limb on your alive character. It does not go on ragdolls. And what this script does is it basically is a damage pass through to from whatever script you're um, using to attack, and then it passes it back into character setup. So the parent is always whatever game object has character setup on it. It also, in the future, will be used to set what the VPAD's target is, which is used in a lot of the camera work for the VPAD system. There may also be a couple other things added to this script in the future, and so it's pretty much integral. You require this script to make the system work. If you don't put this on the limbs, it's not going to send damage. Alright, so we have destroy limb, and if you're not using pooling for your limbs, you need to use destroy limb. Pretty much all there is to it. You put it on there, and after 15 seconds, the limb is destroyed. Anyways, those are the core scripts, not including the events for Bloody Mess. I'll be going over the event system in another tutorial and doing specific tutorials for RFPS, UFPS, and easy weapons. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you next time.